I thought I knew everything about my life, but then everything changed in an instant. The clock struck midnight as Sarah sat in her quiet apartment, the hum of the refrigerator the only sound breaking the silence. She had just come home from work, exhausted after a long day of meetings and deadlines. She didn't expect anything unusual to happen that night, but as she closed the door behind her, she felt a strange sense of unease creeping over her. It was as if something was waiting in the darkness, just out of reach. The apartment was eerily still, the kind of stillness that made her skin crawl. Sarah shrugged it off. She had lived in the same apartment for 3 years, and it had never felt like this before. She moved into the kitchen, opening the fridge to grab a bottle of water. The coolness of the bottle in her hand offered little comfort as she tried to shake off the sensation. She set the bottle down and glanced at the clock. It was 12:03 a.m. The late hour should have had her heading straight to bed, but she felt restless. Something was nagging at her, tugging at the edges of her mind. She had always been the type to dismiss her instincts, chalking them up to fatigue or stress. But tonight was different. Tonight, something was off. A soft thud came from the direction of the living room, followed by a faint rustling sound. Her heart skipped a beat. She froze, listening intently. The apartment was small, and the walls were thin. Any noise could be heard clearly. But this was different. This wasn't the usual creaks of an old building settling or the hum of the air conditioning. No, this was something else. Something deliberate. Sarah's curiosity got the better of her. Slowly, she stepped out of the kitchen and moved toward the living room, every step cautious. As she passed through the hallway, she glanced toward the door to her bedroom. The door was slightly ajar. She hadn't left it that way. She swallowed hard, trying to push the fear down. There was nothing to be afraid of. It was just her imagination running wild. She stepped into the living room, scanning the space. The room was dimly lit by the soft glow of the streetlights filtering through the blinds. The curtains were closed, but there was enough light to make out the furniture. Nothing seemed out of place. Then, she noticed something odd. A piece of paper was lying on the coffee table, half hidden under a stack of magazines. It wasn't there when she left earlier. She approached it cautiously, a feeling of dread pooling in her stomach. Sarah picked up the paper, her hands trembling slightly as she unfolded it. Her eyes scanned the words, and her breath caught in her throat. It was a letter she had never seen before, written in a handwriting she didn't recognize. The message inside was simple but chilling. The truth is closer than you think. Her pulse quickened as she reread the words. Who had left this here? And why? Her mind raced with possibilities. She could feel a knot tightening in her chest, and it was as though the walls were closing in on her. She glanced around the room again, as if expecting someone to jump out at her. But there was nothing. Just the empty, silent apartment. It felt wrong. Everything felt wrong. Sarah dropped the letter back on the table and backed away, her heart pounding in her chest. She was overwhelmed with the need to understand, to uncover the truth. But what truth? And who was behind this? Her thoughts were interrupted by the soft sound of footsteps coming from behind her. She spun around, but no one was there. Only the shadows in the corner of the room seemed to be watching her. She stood there for a moment, frozen, before shaking her head and walking quickly back to her bedroom. She locked the door behind her, but even then, she couldn't shake the feeling that someone, or something, was still watching her. And deep down, she knew that whatever had started tonight was just the beginning. Sarah lay awake in bed, staring at the ceiling, her mind racing. The letter she had found earlier kept replaying in her thoughts, over and over. The truth is closer than you think. What did it mean? Who had written it? And why had they left it for her to find? Her heart was still pounding from the shock, and she couldn't shake the feeling that someone was watching her. She rolled over and checked the time on her phone, 2:15 a.m. The apartment was silent, but the silence only made the tension in the air feel more suffocating. She had tried to convince herself that it was just a weird coincidence, that it meant nothing, but deep down she knew better. She had lived in this apartment for over 3 years, and she had never felt this way before. There was something about tonight that felt different, something she couldn't quite put her finger on. Her eyes wandered to the drawer in her nightstand, where she kept the few personal things that made her feel safe. Her phone, some old letters, a few photographs. But one item stood out among the rest. A small box, plain and unremarkable, tucked away at the back of the drawer. It wasn't something she had paid much attention to over the years. She had almost forgotten about it. The box belonged to her mother. It had been passed down to her when her mother passed away 5 years ago. It had always been something she kept close, a reminder of her mother's love and guidance. Sarah hesitated for a moment before pulling the box out and opening it. Inside was a collection of old photographs, letters, and trinkets from her childhood. But there was one item that caught her eye, a small, folded piece of paper, yellowed with age. She unfolded it carefully, her hands trembling as she read the words written in her mother's neat handwriting. Trust no one, not even me. Sarah's breath caught in her throat. The words seemed to echo in her mind, sending a chill down her spine. Trust no one. Her mother had always been a loving, trustworthy person. She had raised Sarah alone after her father passed away, and she had always been there for her, guiding her through every difficult moment. Why would her mother write something like this? Was it some kind of warning? But who was she supposed to trust if she couldn't trust the people closest to her? Sarah closed her eyes, trying to steady her breathing. She felt the weight of the letter in her hands, and the sudden realization hit her like a ton of bricks. This was all connected. The strange letter she had found in the living room, the warning from her mother's past, and the unease she felt tonight. It was all part of something bigger, something she hadn't even begun to understand. Her phone buzzed suddenly, breaking the silence. Sarah jumped, her heart racing as she grabbed it. The screen lit up, showing a message from her best friend, Emily. We need to talk. Meet me at the usual place, 10 a.m. Don't tell anyone. Sarah's stomach twisted. Emily had been her best friend for years, but something about this message didn't sit right with her. Why the secrecy? Why meet at the usual place? It was almost as if Emily knew something she hadn't shared with Sarah. The fear in Sarah's chest tightened. She had to know the truth, whatever it was. She needed answers. But something told her that whatever Emily was about to tell her, it would change everything. Sarah looked around her apartment, her heart racing. Every shadow in the room seemed to loom larger than it should. Every creak of the floorboards seemed to echo louder. She had to get out of here. She couldn't stay another minute in this suffocating silence. But before she could gather her thoughts, her phone buzzed again. Another message from Emily. Don't trust anyone, Sarah. Not even me. I cannot shake the feeling that something is wrong. The message from Emily still stung in my mind, each word like a whisper in the back of my head, echoing louder with every passing second. Don't trust anyone, Sarah. Not even me. I sat up straight in bed, my heart pounding as the weight of those words settled in. Emily had always been my rock, my confidant. We had shared everything for years. Our dreams, our fears, our secrets. How could I not trust her? Yet, the unease in my gut refused to go away. I glanced at the clock. It was almost 6 a.m. The sun was beginning to rise, casting a pale light into my apartment. I should have been sleeping, but my mind wouldn't allow it. I had to meet Emily. I had to find out what she was trying to say. I grabbed my phone from the nightstand and dialed her number. It rang twice, then went to voicemail. Hey, it's Sarah. I got your message. What's going on? Call me back, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. I wasn't sure why I was so anxious. I had known Emily for over a decade. She was loyal, reliable, and always there when I needed her. But now, there was a distance in her words, a coldness I couldn't ignore. I hung up and stared at the phone screen for a moment, waiting for a reply. The seconds dragged by, each one heavier than the last. I thought back to the letter I had found the night before, the strange message that had set everything in motion. The truth is closer than you think. Was it connected to Emily? I tried to recall the last time I had seen her. We had lunch 2 days ago. She had seemed fine, nothing out of the ordinary. We had talked about work, about our plans for the weekend. There had been no hint of anything wrong. So why now? Why these cryptic messages? I shook my head, trying to clear the fog in my mind. I needed to focus. I needed to figure this out. I grabbed my jacket and slipped on my shoes. I wasn't going to wait around any longer. The usual place Emily mentioned in her message was a small cafe on the corner of 5th and Elm. It was a place we had been going to for years, a quiet spot where we could talk without being interrupted. It was only a short walk from my apartment, so I decided to head over early. As I stepped outside, the cool morning air hit my face, and I breathed in deeply. The streets were still empty, the city not yet awake. It felt like the calm before the storm. My thoughts raced as I made my way to the cafe. What was Emily going to tell me? And why the secrecy? When I arrived, I found the cafe nearly deserted, the only other person there being the barista behind the counter, who was busy preparing coffee. I looked around, but there was no sign of Emily. I took a seat at our usual table near the window and waited. Minutes passed, but still no word from her. My phone buzzed in my pocket, and I quickly pulled it out, hoping for a message. It was from Emily. "I'm sorry. I can't meet you today. Something has changed. You need to be careful." My stomach dropped as I read the message. What did she mean by something has changed? What was going on? I texted her back immediately. "What are you talking about? Why can't we meet? Where are you?" The reply came quickly. "I can't explain right now. Just stay safe, Sarah. Trust no one." My mind raced as I read the words. She was telling me to stay safe. But from what? And why was she acting so distant, so secretive? I felt like I was losing my grip on everything. The weight of the situation felt like a boulder pressing against my chest. What was happening to Emily? What was happening to me? I looked up from my phone, my eyes scanning the room, hoping for a glimpse of her. But the cafe was still empty. I stood up, my heart pounding in my chest. I had to find her. I couldn't just sit here, waiting for her to reach out. I had to know the truth. I stepped outside and started walking, my mind a whirlwind of questions. What was Emily trying to tell me? Why was she so distant? And why did I feel like something terrible was about to happen? I walked the empty streets, my feet hitting the pavement with each step. The early morning air felt colder than it should, biting at my skin as the chill of uncertainty wrapped itself around me. My mind raced with questions I couldn't answer. What was Emily hiding? Why had she acted so distant? And most importantly, what was happening to her? Every step I took felt heavier than the last, as if the weight of the situation was dragging me down, pulling me deeper into something I wasn't ready to face. I turned the corner onto Fifth Avenue, the familiar buildings and storefronts now feeling strange, almost foreign. I had lived in this city for years, but today, everything felt off. Like I was walking through a dream, and at any moment, it could all shatter into nothing. I checked my phone again. Still no new messages from Emily. The last text she had sent was burned into my mind. Trust no one. The words seemed to twist and turn, like a warning or a cry for help, and I couldn't tell which one it was. My phone buzzed suddenly, breaking my thoughts. I pulled it out of my pocket, praying it was Emily, but the name on the screen wasn't hers. It was a number I didn't recognize. Hesitant, I swiped to answer. "Hello," I said, my voice trembling slightly. There was a long pause on the other end of the line, the kind of silence that made my heart beat faster. Then, a voice finally spoke. "Sarah, you need to listen to me." The voice was unfamiliar, but something about it sent a shiver down my spine. "Who is this?" I asked, my pulse quickening. "It doesn't matter who I am," the voice replied, low and urgent. "What matters is that you need to trust me. Emily is in trouble. She's been caught in something dangerous. You have to stay away from her. Don't go looking for her. It's too late for that." My stomach dropped as the words sank in. Emily was in trouble? What was going on? "What do you mean?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. "I can't explain everything over the phone. Just know that Emily has been keeping secrets from you. You're in danger too. You've always been close, but now it's too risky. Stay away from her, Sarah. For your own safety." The line went dead before I could say anything else. I stood there in the middle of the street, holding my phone tightly, the words echoing in my head. What the hell was happening? Who was that? And why had they warned me about Emily? I didn't know if I could trust the person who had just called, but something about their tone, the urgency in their voice, made me believe them. My hands shook as I looked around, as if expecting someone to jump out at me. The street was still empty, the city just beginning to wake up. I needed answers. I needed to find Emily, to make sense of all this. But the more I thought about it, the more conflicted I became. The voice on the phone had made it clear that I was in danger. But why? Why was I a target? Why was Emily involved in something dangerous? I ran my hand through my hair, frustration building inside me. I couldn't just sit here and wait for something to happen. I had to act. I turned back down Fifth Avenue, determined to get answers, even if it meant putting myself in danger. As I walked, I felt like I was being followed, like someone was watching me from the shadows. Every sound, every footstep behind me made me jump. I tried to shake off the feeling, telling myself it was just my imagination. But deep down I knew something was wrong. Something was closing in on me. I turned another corner and found myself at the entrance of a small park. I didn't remember it being here, but it was a place I used to visit with Emily. It was quiet, peaceful, hidden away from the noise of the city. I felt an odd pull to go inside, to see if Emily was there. It was the last place we had been together before everything changed. I stepped through the gate, my heart pounding in my chest. The park was deserted, just the rustling of leaves in the trees and the distant sound of traffic. I walked deeper into the park, my mind racing with thoughts of Emily. What was happening to her? What was happening to me? And why did I feel like I was being dragged into something I couldn't escape? I walked deeper into the park, the quiet solitude around me doing little to calm my growing anxiety. The trees swayed gently in the wind, their leaves rustling softly, but to me, the sound seemed amplified in the stillness. I kept expecting someone to step out from behind one of the benches or trees to confront me with answers, but the park remained empty, save for the shadows. I reached a small fountain near the center of the park and stopped, looking around once more. The air felt heavy, like it was pressing down on me. My thoughts were racing. The phone call, Emily's strange behavior, the cryptic messages. Who was I supposed to trust? I stood there for a few moments, breathing deeply, trying to steady myself. I had come here hoping to find Emily, or at least some clue as to where she was, but there was nothing. I felt more lost than ever. Just as I was about to turn back, I heard footsteps behind me. My heart jumped into my throat. I turned quickly, my eyes scanning the empty path, but there was no one in sight. I shook my head, trying to convince myself it was just the wind or my overactive imagination. But then I heard the footsteps again, closer this time, the sound of shoes tapping against the concrete. I spun around, and this time, a figure emerged from the shadows. It was a man, tall and wearing a dark coat. His face was partly obscured by the collar, but I could see his eyes, cold, calculating, like he was watching me with careful precision. "Sarah," he said, his voice low and deliberate. My breath caught in my throat as I tried to place him. I had never seen him before, yet something about him felt familiar. I didn't answer right away. I just stood there, frozen, my mind racing with questions. "Who are you?" I finally managed to ask, my voice shaky. He took a step closer, his eyes never leaving mine. "I'm someone who's been watching over you," he said simply, as if that answered everything. "You've been caught up in something bigger than you realize, and it's only a matter of time before it comes for you." My heart was pounding in my chest, each word hitting me like a hammer. "What are you talking about?" I demanded, taking a step back, unsure whether to run or stay and face whatever this was. "You need to leave the city, Sarah," he said, his voice suddenly urgent. "You're in danger. All of you are. Emily, you, everyone who's been involved. There's no escaping this." I shook my head, my mind reeling. "What do you mean, everyone who's been involved? What's going on?" I felt like I was drowning in questions, but the answers weren't coming fast enough. The man sighed, his expression darkening. "There are things happening in the shadows, things that no one knows about. People in your life have been lying to you. Emily, she's deeper in this than you could ever imagine. You can't trust anyone, Sarah. Not anymore." His words echoed in my ears, and for the first time, I felt truly afraid. I had always thought of myself as a strong person, someone who could handle anything that came my way. But now, in the face of this mysterious stranger, I felt small, helpless. "I don't believe you," I said, trying to sound confident, but my voice faltered. "I have to find Emily. I need to know the truth." The man shook his head, his expression softening for a brief moment. "You don't understand. Emily is part of this, but she's not the one pulling the strings. There's something much bigger at play here, something far more dangerous. If you don't leave now, you might not make it out." I took a step back, my mind racing. I couldn't just walk away from this. I couldn't let go of Emily without understanding what was happening. But the more the man spoke, the more I felt like I was caught in a web that was slowly tightening around me. The man seemed to sense my hesitation, his eyes narrowing. "You don't have a choice, Sarah. This isn't just about Emily. It's about your life. And if you don't leave now, it'll be too late." I stood there, motionless, as the weight of his words settled on me. What was I supposed to do? Leave everything behind? Leave Emily, my best friend, in the dark? But what if he was right? What if I was already in too deep to turn back? I stood there, frozen, unable to move, as the man's words echoed in my mind. "It's about your life. And if you don't leave now, it'll be too late." I wanted to believe I was strong enough to face whatever was coming. But the uncertainty, the sheer weight of everything crashing down on me, made my legs feel like jelly. I took another step back, my eyes never leaving him. But I wasn't sure if I was stepping away from him or stepping into something worse. My heart was pounding in my chest, and my mind was a whirlwind of confusion. What was I supposed to do? Was he telling the truth? Or was this some elaborate game, a mind game designed to break me? The longer I stood there, the more the air around me seemed to thicken. The man's presence felt suffocating, and I realized I hadn't taken a breath in what felt like forever. I forced myself to exhale, to calm my racing heart, but it didn't help. What do you want from me? I finally managed to ask, my voice barely more than a whisper. He didn't immediately answer. Instead, he looked at me, his eyes narrowed as if he were trying to gauge my every thought. Then, after what seemed like an eternity, he spoke again. I want you to understand, Sarah. I'm not your enemy. I'm trying to protect you from something far worse. His words, though calm, held an edge of urgency that made me second-guess everything. What could possibly be worse than this? Worse than the uncertainty of my best friend's disappearance? Worse than the threats hanging in the air, the feeling that something dark was closing in on me from every side. I didn't know what to think anymore. I looked at the man again, trying to find something in his face, some sign that he wasn't just playing with me. But all I saw was cold resolve. You're saying that Emily is in danger, I said, still struggling to process the gravity of it all. But you're not telling me why. What is this? What's happening? He sighed, shaking his head slightly, as though he had hoped I would understand by now. I can't explain everything to you right now. Some things are too dangerous to put into words. His gaze softened for a moment, but then hardened again. What I can tell you is this. Emily is caught in a web that's been spun for years. She's been working with people you don't know, people who will stop at nothing to get what they want. I took another step back, trying to process this new information. What do you mean? Who are these people? What do they want? He took a slow breath, his eyes flicking to the side before he met my gaze again. They're powerful, Sarah. You have no idea how deep this goes. And Emily has been right in the middle of it. She's been playing a dangerous game, and now it's too late to turn back. You're saying that Emily is involved in something illegal? I asked, barely able to believe the words that were coming out of my mouth. He didn't answer directly, but the look in his eyes was all I needed to see. It was confirmation. My mind was racing, the pieces of the puzzle starting to fall into place. Emily, my best friend, the one person I trusted above all else, had been hiding something from me. Something huge. And I had no idea what to do with that information. I thought I knew everything about her, about the life we had built together. But now, all of that felt like a lie. You have to trust me, he said suddenly, breaking through my thoughts. If you stay here, if you continue down this path, you'll be dragged into this too. You'll be part of something you don't even understand, and once you're in, you won't be able to get out. I shook my head, the panic rising in my chest. No, I can't just walk away. I need to know what happened to Emily. I need to find her. The man's face hardened again. You're not listening, Sarah. This isn't something you can fix by just showing up at her door. It's too dangerous. You have to leave now, before it's too late. It's the only way you'll be safe. The words hit me like a slap. The only way I'll be safe. The only way. But what was the cost of that safety? What would I lose if I walked away from everything I knew, everything I had believed in? Was there even a choice anymore? I didn't know. But I had no time to think about it, not with the man standing there, urging me to leave, to run. And I couldn't ignore the fact that he might be right. I might be in deeper than I could ever have imagined. But what if I wasn't? What if there was still a chance to save Emily, to make sense of the mess we were both caught in? I stood there, conflicted, unable to take a step forward or back. The man's words lingered in the air like smoke, thick and suffocating. You're not listening, Sarah, he had said. If you stay here, if you continue down this path, you'll be dragged into this too. My mind was a whirlwind, and no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't make sense of it. Everything I had thought I knew about my life, about Emily, was unraveling, and I felt like I was losing control. I looked at him again, this time more intently. He wasn't just some stranger. There was something about him, something familiar in his eyes, but I couldn't place it. Why should I trust you? I finally asked, my voice trembling despite myself. He didn't answer immediately. He just watched me, like he was weighing my every word, every move. After a long pause, he spoke. Because I'm trying to help you, Sarah. I'm trying to keep you from making a mistake you can't undo. His voice was softer now, almost pleading, but it only made me more uncertain. But what if I don't believe you? What if I want to find Emily and figure this out for myself? He stepped closer, lowering his voice. You don't understand what's at stake. Emily is already too far gone. She's already involved in something much bigger than either of us can control. My mind reeled with the implications of what he was saying. What do you mean, too far gone? What could be bigger than all of this? You're saying she's in danger, but I don't even know what that means. Who are these people? What do they want? He looked around, almost nervously, as if expecting someone to appear at any moment. Then he turned his gaze back to me. They want control, Sarah. They want power. And they'll do anything to get it. Emily's been caught in their web, and now, you're in their sights too. I felt the ground shift beneath me, like everything I knew was being pulled out from under me. Power. Control. A web of lies. I couldn't comprehend it. But his words didn't seem like just threats. There was a coldness in his voice, an urgency, that made me feel like I was standing on the edge of something much darker than I could ever imagine. I don't know who you are, but I know Emily. She's not like this, I said, my voice shaking now. She's been my best friend for years. She would never get involved in something like this. I have to find her. I need to know the truth. The truth, Sarah? He asked, his tone flat. The truth is, you've been living in the dark this whole time. And you're about to see just how deep this goes. He took another step toward me. You think you know Emily, but there's so much you don't understand. She's kept things from you. Things that could destroy you if you're not careful. His words were like a slap to the face. Everything I thought I knew, everything I had trusted, was falling apart. I don't believe you, I said, though the words sounded hollow even to me. You're trying to scare me into running. But I can't just walk away. I won't. Not without knowing what happened to her. The man's face hardened, a grim look crossing his features. Then you're making a mistake, he said coldly. If you stay here, if you keep pushing for answers, you'll be part of it. And once you're in, you can't get out. My chest tightened, and for a moment, I thought I might collapse under the weight of it all. This wasn't some simple misunderstanding. Whatever was happening was real, and it was pulling me deeper by the second. I don't know what to do, I whispered, more to myself than to him. You're telling me to leave, to walk away, but I can't just do that. Not without knowing what's really going on. The man sighed, his gaze softening slightly. You don't have a choice. It's already too late. They're watching you, Sarah. They've been watching both of you for a long time. You're already tangled in this. I shook my head, disbelief spreading through me. I won't run. I won't let them win, I said, my voice firmer this time. I'm going to find Emily, and I'm going to find out the truth. No matter what it takes. The man's expression hardened again, and he stepped back, as if he had already given up on trying to convince me. Then you'll see for yourself. But don't say I didn't warn you. And with that, he turned and walked away, leaving me standing there, lost in a sea of confusion and fear. I knew he was right about one thing. I was already in too deep. But I couldn't walk away, not now. I had to find Emily. I had to know the truth, even if it meant facing whatever dangers lay ahead. I walked away from the park, my thoughts racing faster than my feet could carry me. The man's warning lingered in my mind, repeating like a broken record. You're already in too deep. If you stay, they'll drag you in too. But I couldn't back down. I couldn't leave this unfinished. I had to find Emily, and I had to uncover the truth, no matter what it cost. I pulled out my phone as I walked, scrolling through my contacts, but Emily's name felt distant. How could I call her now, knowing everything I had learned? What if she was involved in whatever dark scheme this man had warned me about? The thought twisted in my stomach. But what choice did I have? I had to know where she was, even if the answers terrified me. I paused for a moment, staring at the phone screen. I had to take a step forward. If I didn't, I would be stuck in this never-ending spiral of questions with no answers. I hit the call button, the phone, ringing once, twice. And then, on the third ring, it picked up. Hello. Emily's voice was calm, but something in her tone sent a chill through me. Emily, I said, trying to sound normal, though my heart was racing. It's Sarah. Where are you? What's going on? There was a long pause on the other end. For a moment, I thought she was going to hang up. But then she spoke, her voice quieter now, more hesitant. Sarah, you shouldn't have called. I could hear the fear in her voice, and it sent a shock of panic through me. What do you mean? Emily, I need to know what's happening. I need you to tell me the truth. What's going on? Another pause. I can't talk to you about this. It's too dangerous. You don't know what you're involved in. I felt my grip on the phone tighten. What are you talking about? I don't care how dangerous it is. I need to know where you are. I can't just sit here and wait. Tell me the truth, Emily. Please. Her voice shook slightly on the other end, and I could hear her breath quicken. I can't, Sarah. They're watching me. They know I've been talking to you. I have to go. The line went dead before I could say anything more. My hand dropped to my side, the phone still in my grasp. My breath was coming in quick, shallow bursts. What had just happened? Emily was in danger. She had been talking to someone, or maybe multiple people, who were watching her, and now me too. My mind was spinning with everything she had said. Who were they? And why was she so scared? I looked around, but the street was still empty. There was no one here. No one following me. And yet, I felt like something, was right behind me. I couldn't ignore the feeling. I had to find her. I couldn't sit back and let this happen to her, not when I was so close. I needed to figure out where she was, what she was involved in, and what I was really up against. My thoughts were scattered, but one thing was clear. I couldn't do this alone. I needed help. But who could I trust now? The man in the park had made it clear that everyone, even Emily, was caught in something bigger than either of us could imagine. Maybe he was right. Maybe I was in over my head. But there was no turning back now. I couldn't just leave Emily behind. I reached out to my phone again, searching for anyone who might have answers. But then my phone buzzed in my hand, the screen lighting up. A new message. From an unknown number. My heart skipped a beat as I opened it. The message was short. Simple. You're next, Sarah? Be careful. My blood ran cold. The text wasn't signed. There was no name, no explanation. Just a warning. And for the first time in a long time, I felt a deep, raw fear settle in my chest. Who was watching me? Why was I being pulled into this web of lies and danger? The answers I had been searching for were just beyond my reach, and the more I tried to grasp them, the more elusive they became. I stared at the message for a moment longer before my eyes flicked up. I was no longer standing alone. There, across the street, I saw a figure watching me. A man, just standing there in the shadows. His face was hidden by a hood, but I could feel his eyes on me, piercing through the distance. My pulse quickened. Was this one of them? Was this the person behind the message? My legs tensed, ready to move, but my feet were rooted to the spot. I didn't know what to do. All I knew was that the danger was closing in. And this time, I wasn't sure if I could outrun it. I stood frozen in place, my heart racing as I watched the figure across the street. The streetlights cast long shadows, but I could still see him clearly. His posture stiff, his head tilted slightly, as though he was waiting for something, or perhaps waiting for me to make a move. My instincts screamed at me to run, but my feet wouldn't budge. I was paralyzed, not from fear of the man, but from the overwhelming uncertainty of everything happening around me. The text message still burned in my mind. You're next, Sarah. Be careful. Who had sent that? Was it connected to the man across the street? Was he the one behind all of this? Or was he just another player in the game? I could feel the weight of the silence pressing down on me. The world around me seemed to stop, the hum of the city disappearing, leaving only the sound of my own breath. My phone buzzed again, but I didn't move to check it. My eyes never left the figure. He hadn't moved. I was trapped in a moment of indecision, my mind racing for answers that didn't seem to exist. I took a deep breath and forced myself to take a step forward, despite the rising panic. I needed to get closer. I had to know who he was and what he wanted. As I moved toward him, my footsteps echoed in the emptiness. The closer I got, the more the world seemed to close in around me, the air thick with tension. I kept my eyes locked on the man, watching for any movement. But still, he remained still. When I was just a few yards away, I stopped. I couldn't make myself get any closer, not yet. I waited for him to speak, for him to give me some kind of clue about what was really going on. His face remained obscured by the hood, his features hidden in the shadow. But I could feel his eyes on me, piercing through the darkness. Are you going to stand there all night? I finally asked, my voice more steady than I felt. He didn't respond right away, but I could sense he was considering how to answer. After a long pause, he spoke, his voice low but clear. You don't know what you're involved in, do you? I shook my head, more to myself than to him. No, I don't. but I'm trying to figure it out. His gaze never wavered as he took a slow step forward. It's too late for that. The deeper you dig, the more you'll understand. But by then, it will be too late to escape. I swallowed hard, a knot tightening in my stomach. The words hit me harder than I expected. Escape. The thought was chilling. What kind of danger had I really stepped into? I had no answers, only more questions. And the more I tried to get close to the truth, the further it seemed to slip away. What do you want from me? I asked, my voice shaking now. He tilted his head slightly, as though considering the question. Nothing, he said. I'm not here to hurt you, Sarah. I'm here to warn you. But it's up to you whether you listen. My mind raced with everything I had learned so far, everything Emily had told me, and everything the man in the park had warned me about. Was this connected? Were they all part of the same thing? The fear that had been building in my chest now bubbled over, threatening to suffocate me. What's happening? I asked again, my voice barely a whisper. Who's behind this? The man's lips barely curled into something resembling a smile, but it wasn't reassuring. You'll find out soon enough. But I can't help you anymore. He turned and began to walk away, his figure swallowed by the shadows of the city. I stood there, staring after him, the silence deafening. I didn't know what to do. Was it over? Was I really in too deep? I had no answers, only the certainty that things were much worse than I ever imagined. My phone buzzed again, snapping me out of my daze. This time, I checked the message immediately. It was from an unknown number. They're coming for you, Sarah. You can't hide. My stomach dropped. The text felt like a warning, but also a threat. It was too late to turn back now. I had to face whatever was coming. But how? How could I fight something I didn't even understand? My thoughts were interrupted as I felt a strange sensation, like a presence behind me. I turned quickly, but the street was empty. For a brief moment, I felt like I had been left alone in a world that was closing in on me, and I realized something that terrified me more than anything. I was no longer just trying to find Emily. I was trying to survive.